Extended drought and record-breaking temperatures have led to a busy 2021 wildfire season in the western United States. Today, we're speaking with Shannon Horn, a 30-year veteran of the fire safety industry, who talks about the factors leading to lengthier wildfire seasons and the challenges these conditions present to fire management organizations. That and more on this episode of Solutions That Save, a fire safety podcast from Perimeter Solutions. Hello, I'm your host, Dan Green. Welcome to Solutions That Save, a fire safety podcast from Perimeter Solutions, helping save property, natural resources, critical infrastructure, and lives. Wildfire season has increased in length by more than 70 days since the 1980s. Shannon Horn, Business Director, North America Retardant and Services at Perimeter Solutions, has worked in fire safety throughout his career. And in this episode of Solutions That Save, he discusses the evolution of wildfire season and how off-season preparation is changing to meet the challenge. Before jumping into that, though, Shannon starts us off with a brief review of his career. Before we dive into wildfire prevention and protection, can you give us a little background on yourself? How did you get into the fire safety business?
I started in 1991 when I was in high school loading airplanes. My dad worked for the U.S. Forest Service and provided an opportunity for me to go out there and work around airplanes. And I really gained a love for working around them. I started there doing that and then moved into a base manager role and then operations manager. And then I started doing portable operations nationwide. And from there, I actually created my own business, First Response Fire Rescue, that provided its services, equipment, and people to the chemical company that we were able to, build great services nationwide, worldwide. And I was fortunate a couple years ago to merge with Perimeter Solutions, my companies, and now a business director for the fire safety team.
Data shows that wildfire season is lasting much longer and that fires are more intense than they have been in years past. What has led to this, and what do you feel are the biggest challenges facing organizations involved in wildfire safety?
Especially over the last 4 years, we've really seen, I think everybody can see, the extended drought, higher temperatures. Look what we've seen in the last few weeks, record-breaking temperatures all over the western U.S. And the droughts have been extreme that we haven't seen in over 100 years. These are obviously causing longer fire season, more intense fire seasons. And to answer your question on what are the biggest challenges, it's definitely a different dynamic than it used to be, where we had shorter periods, not as many fires. Now we're getting more fires at the same time, more intense fires, longer fires. And it's really, the resources are very challenging for companies to have for these extended period of times. We now have fire in the U.S., going year round. We have bases now that will be open 12 months out of the year in San Diego area and in Sacramento area. So this is definitely a changing of times. And we're also seeing this across the globe. We've seen 2 years ago in Australia, one of their worst fire seasons ever. So these are definitely big challenges that are going to put strains on many companies and organizations.
Speaking of longer wildfire seasons, and you mentioned Australia, but you had an early start this year in Mexico. Could you tell us about the partnership that you had with 10 Tanker?
Yeah, and that's great. This is, it really is a small community, and it's about the relationships with the cooperators, the agencies in different countries, and we all come together to do the same thing, protect lives and property. We have great relationship with the tanker companies. I was able to call up the CEO on a Saturday evening, and we were able to put together a program to support, they were in dire need to save some villages. We provided the portable MRB, mobile retardant base, with the retardant, and 10 Tanker flew down with their DC-10, and we were able to put about 100,000 gallons and really provide some great support for Mexico.
Perimeter Solutions started operations at their air bases earlier this year as well, earlier than usual. Will you tell us what's involved with preparing for wildfire season?
Yeah, and that's a funny question there too. Is many people think, well, we're only busy during the fire season. Well, actually, we're busier in the wintertime than we are sometimes in the fire season, just because of the preparedness. We have about 450 people that we need to train and have ready for the fire season, as well as the equipment needed to support all the operations. So we bring a lot of the equipment back, and it's really imperative that the window of opportunity and the extreme temperatures that a lot of our equipment has to work at, we have to make sure that everything is tip-top shape and we have backup systems. So depending on the season, we bring a third of our pumps, 60, 70 pumps back into our service center, and they're all refurbished and gone through and then sent back out, tested, and all our other equipment, plus we're upgrading and replacing. And so yes, our winters are very busy preparing for the next fire season.
Now, in June, you had the opportunity to visit Orange County, and you're working with the Orange County Fire Authority in 4 surrounding counties on a new project. Could you explain what's going on with that?
What we've seen in the past years is really some of these fires, they just blow up intense. And, with people moving more in the urban interface areas, the responsiveness it's really imperative that we can act faster. And generally how our operations work is we get a call when there's a fire, and then we activate, and generally it takes, by the time we mobilize our personnel and equipment, it can be up to 12 to 24 hours before we're on site. This is a mutual agreement with 4 counties, like you say, and what we're looking at doing is having like a fire station. We have people and equipment ready at all times for 24 hours service for about 150 to 180 days. So they have dedicated helicopters, dedicated equipment services that we can provide day or night for those surrounding counties.
You just mentioned how you'd be doing night work. What's unique about that? Could you explain nighttime retardant application?
Yeah, absolutely. The fire intensity is a lot less at night, as you have your RHs, your relative humidities, generally a little bit higher. So your fire activity intensity is a lot less. And that's really the time that you can get a handle, and if you can get the resources down there. But in the past, it's very unsafe to have crews out there generally in steep conditions or very challenging areas. And with air operations and that intensity level down, if we can put retardant around those lines, and especially in those urban interface areas around protecting homes, we can provide a lot better opportunity to save properties.
We've seen this year that the Western United States has been plagued by drought for the first half, some reporting extreme drought. What impact have you seen that had to date, and what do you expect for the rest of this year's wildfire season?
Well, that's a great question, Dan. And we're definitely seeing every year, it seems like there's new records. And when you think you've seen it all, something else happens. We've had this year a record number of early base openings, and some of these bases are 30 to 90 days opening before generally they open on our contract period. So it's really affecting what's happening out there as far as getting our resources in place sooner and bringing aircraft on sooner. And it's really going to look like an extended time, as we've talked about previously, potential year round. That's not maybe just California, but that's going to go longer seasons in different areas. We've seen in Arizona last year, generally this time of year, you start getting the monsoonal flow. Last year, the monsoons did not come in, and fire season was extended all through the summer. And we're seeing a little bit of monsoonal activity, but not sure what that impact will be this year. So, our Southwest region has really been hit with high temperatures, very low precipitation, and that's very extreme to southern Utah, southern Colorado, and Arizona for those fire areas.
With more active wildfire seasons, there's a lot of demand for FosCheck long-term fire retardant. How do you prepare for that?
Well, FosCheck brand has been around for about 60 years. So the nice thing is we've got some great experience. We've built a great team. Like I said, we have 400 to 500 employees seasonally that support nationwide and globally. We've built distribution centers in all our areas that we know that we can be as efficient and as effective as possible. So we've really built a great program. We have a great team that's able to support globally whatever the needs are. And it's about expecting the unexpected.
And you've touched on this a couple of times. We've talked about how wildfire season is basically what's going year round now for some areas. But when you shut down in November or December, what happens with Perimeter Solutions and your team as you're preparing for next year?
So there's two things. Number one is we're preparing for the next season. We've extended a lot of bases. It'll continue to stay open. And as you know, Australia then opens up. December is the beginning of their fire season, and then South America, Chile. So really, we have year-round fire operations globally that continue. So if we're not fighting fire, then we're preparing for the next fire season and getting equipment and people trained and ready to go.
So you're always busy, man. It's
Yes.
amazing.
Well, I think the important thing is, it's about education to, all the different agencies out there, especially we're seeing a lot of fires caused by utility companies, railroads, things like that, is really continuing to educate about these things, about the products, the tools that are out there to share. And as we talked about, the prevention, that's really a big facet of our business that we're trying to help, especially as we've seen more extreme fires and people moving to more urban interface areas, is really to grow that program to protect the prevention and be more proactive instead of reactive. So much of wildfire suppression is always reactive. And I think with the changing times, what we really want to see people do is really work into a proactive state of mind and, continue to do great things to protect lives and property and our environment.
Want to learn more about solutions that save property, natural resources, critical infrastructure, and lives? Visit us at perimetersolutions.com. That's perimeter-solutions.com. See how our products impact critically important issues of life, issues where there often is no room for error and the job doesn't offer second chances. Please join us again for another episode of Solutions That Save, a fire safety podcast from Perimeter Solutions.